Hey everyone, it's Logic Show here with another video, and this video is going to be on a really cool chess problem made by Karl Fabel, who is a German who made a bunch of chess problems. This video is going to be really interesting about a problem that's kind of counterintuitive. I really hope you enjoy. Please consider subscribing if you enjoyed this content. Thank you. Let's move right into the problem. Alright, so let's try and discuss how we can solve this problem. So I'll first explain it to you guys. So this problem is essentially a chess problem where you want black to not be checkmated, which might seem counterintuitive to the purpose of chess. However, the whole point is for white to find a move, a specific move that they can do such that black will not be checkmated. So, one more thing which I've noticed people never really understand regarding these problems, the fact, or it's not really much of they don't understand, it's something that's not really clarified to them, and it's the fact that although the king is here, it originally started on this half of the board, right? So obviously, when the king started over here, but it's now over there. So you might think that the king started here and white is playing towards, white's playing this way. However, that's not the case. You'd actually notice, oh, wow, okay, that the A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H are all in alphabetical order, indicating that white started over here. And so that's just something to notice really quickly. It's something a lot of people don't get. So I hope you actually pause the video and you actually try and solve this chess problem. The solution is very interesting, in my opinion at least, and the solution is something that a lot of people do not get, which is also really interesting in my opinion. So now what we're going to try and do is we're going to try and solve it. So hopefully you've attempted it. Now let's try and think of different things we can do. Now we obviously know this knight moves here, there's an immediate check, right? And if we move the knight over here as well, there's also an immediate check with there. In fact, the other knight is just about as useless in this problem. We put it here, there's a check. And if you actually notice, one thing I didn't mention before is the fact that the king is already in a stalemate, right? So if I were to go back, the king can't move here, obviously. There's a pawn. The king can't move here. The pawn is right here. King can't move here. Pawn. The king can't move up there because of a pawn. The king can't move down here because of the pawn. And the king can't move down here because of the pawn. So essentially every movement of the king is restricted except for the location they are already in. So if you find a way to make a move without checking the king, you have essentially found a way to solve the puzzle. However, I'll explain later that the puzzle is not as intuitive in that manner as you'd think. So both of these knights, they're essentially useless. We can't do anything with them, and we might as well just disregard them because we can't do anything with them. All of these pawns are useless. They're all blocked by these black pawns over here, and although this pawn could be attacked by the bishop over here, highly unlikely. No point in that. So especially considering the fact that they're already in a bad position. Killing this pawn would not give them much of an advantage. We would kill it with their knight, but that's not really the point of the game, so we'll not get into that. However, we can now try and get to this area. Obviously, we can't kill here. We kill here, we found a way to get a check. The king can't already move. It's a checkmate. Over here, we can't do anything with the king. A lot of people don't notice this in the beginning. However, there's a bishop right here protecting this whole diagonal alley. So the king cannot enter onto f8, but in addition, also the king can't enter onto g7 because this rook is here, can't enter here as well. And this rook is blocked because of the king and bishop, and the bishop is essentially also blocking or being blocked by the rook and the king right here. So essentially everything here except for this rook is limited. And once we move our rook, we immediately create a check, and that makes a checkmate, which is not necessarily great. So what we want to try and do is we want to try and find a way using these pieces to not checkmate the black king. However, we can see we have tested every single piece everywhere on the board, and we could not find a way to not checkmate the king. So what we need to do is we need to think logically, right? So this was not really mentioned in the beginning of the video, but it's assumed that whoever is playing black will try and play the most ideal move and will try and play to the best of their abilities, indicating that we are allowed to make a move and we are allowed to expect that black will make the most logical move or the best move after that to protect their king, which would be the most logical. So we can actually see if we were to cause check to the king, we could see that if we change a circumstance on this board by creating a check, for example, we want to allow the king to be able to escape by using this check, right? So the idea is if I move this piece on the board, we're going to be able to let the king move to another square. And this is kind of important in the whole philosophy of what we're trying to do. So I hope you guys understood that. And what I want you to do is I want you to think about that for a while. I want you to try and solving it knowing this, the fact that doing something on the board could change the circumstances of the board, which make it easier for the king to move and slide out of the check. So we're going to get back to that. Right, so I hope you guys actually tried what I told you, that you can actually find a way to change the circumstances on this board so that we are able to make this king move to another location. Now, if you did, you would notice that none of these knights can do anything. They're not changing anything above here. And in fact, none of the pawns are being changed. And remember, everything that essentially is changing is the pawns, right? The pawns are what are essentially trying to check the king. And unless you open up a check, right? So unless I were to, for example, open up this check and put a check in, and you were to eliminate that check, there is no way for us to be able to do something by just causing it. Now, that might be a little complicated, but once I show you the solution, which will come up in just a few more seconds, you're going to actually see what I mean, right? So this is obviously not it. The same thing with the other knight. This is kind of like symmetrical. You can actually kind of see everything underneath everything like on this half of the board is completely symmetrical, and actually not exactly. You can see this A column is not really very symmetrical, but everything from the B to the H, they're all pretty symmetrical, in fact. So that's just something to note, that anything here that happens with one side, this knight, if nothing happens, then it will not work on this side too. However, that's kind of digressing from the actual point, and what we're trying to do is find a way to place a check but allow black to be able to eliminate that check. And we can actually see, if I were to do this move right here, I would not be able to essentially do anything after the black has no way of killing this bishop, no way of eliminating this sort of threat. Now we look at this bishop, the only thing it can eliminate is this pawn over here. We could eliminate with the knight, as I mentioned earlier, not much help to the black side. However, one thing that is really key on this board, the one thing that has power and the one thing that's actually aiming at something strategic, is this rook right here. This rook has a nice look at this bishop right here, and it can easily kill it if necessary. So essentially what we want to try and do is we want to make a circumstance where it can kill this bishop. Now, what's preventing it from killing? What's preventing the bishop essentially from being killed right now? And it's the fact that if they move the rook right now, we're going to cause a check, right? So what's preventing this rook from killing the bishop right now is the fact that this is kind of pinned on this alley right here. And if they were to move, it would be causing this sort of check right here. And that's bad for black. So what we need to do as white is we need to find a way to block this check. That way black is able to eliminate this bishop. Now, I already kind of gave a little bit away, but the reason why we're eliminating the bishop is the only other strategical power we have in here is the rook. The knights are basically useless in this game, so we need to use the rook here, right? And what's preventing anything from happening with this rook is essentially the fact that this bishop will be checking the king. So we move the rook somewhere out. Let's just say here, for example, we'll cause this check. We want to make it so that the black rook can come over there and kill this bishop, although it will essentially die because of the king. It doesn't matter. Black will not be in a check after that move, and that is essentially the benefit. So what we're going to do right now is we have to find a way to block this check right here. And the idea is we move the rook right here. And what essentially is happening is we have created a check here. However, black is free to kill it. We kill it, and black is not in checkmate, although they are in a very bad position. And although we could easily checkmate them like that, once they've done any move, if they're able to do a move, they could just move this back here, something like that. We can easily just pull our knight up there, do a checkmate, and the game would essentially be finished off. However, we can actually see the intent of this puzzle, and the way we're actually solving it is simply by using the principle that we can block something to allow something else to kill. So we're essentially putting our rook here, creating a check, but allowing this rook to kill it off. So we want to keep in mind that principle, and I really enjoy this puzzle because of the fact that many people, they don't get to be exposed to the side of working counterintuitively or essentially not working as opposed or as with the rules, and I think this puzzle really teaches that. So thank you guys for listening. Thank you all so much for watching this video. I had a lot of fun making it. If you want to see more content like this, please do subscribe, and also email me if you have any questions regarding the explanation I gave. Follow me on Instagram, and also consider pressing the bell icon if you want to see updates on when I post videos. I was not able to solve this puzzle. This is one of the puzzles that I was actually not able to solve originally. However, after knowing the solution, I gave my thought process. So I hope you guys really enjoyed that. If you did, please let me know in the comments. Thank you guys. See you again, and peace.